we teach from a very young age that when you make money, you put them in these four buckets. You divvy out your money. First one is the tithe, right? Which is give back to God. The next one is share with others. The next one is spend on yourself. And the next one is seed capital.
Welcome to the Mark Ferris Experience, your ultimate guide to business and wealth building. Today, we have a real treat for you. We have Aaron Voorhees here today. Aaron is a serial entrepreneur. He runs a company called Aslan Corporation, which is really just one of his many businesses that he has. With Aslan, he has over 30 employees. He has approximately around 40 million in revenue, annual revenue at any given time. And he has not only an amazing business life, but he also has an amazing family life. He has 5 boys. He's a real strong family man and has been able to balance not only the business and the family, but then also developing and building up entrepreneurs. So super excited for you to hear his story here today. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. It's been a while, but I'm glad to see you again.
Yeah, you too. It was, in our past, we've had some really good business conversations, and I'm really looking forward to, finding out the real origin story for you, and then coming back to today and learning some of these lessons and sharing some of your stories that you've had along the way, because there's been many to get to the point that you are right now. Can we go back to the very beginning, Aaron, when you started in business? Let's go back to, when you first had the idea of being an entrepreneur, and what was that first business that you got into that really, sunk your teeth in, where you were able to cut your teeth in business?
Wow. Well, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial home, and the Voorhees have been extremely entrepreneurial. Ever since we came to America in 1660, we've been involved in businesses and starting businesses. And one of my great uncles had a stagecoach business up in Wyoming, and one of his best friends was Buffalo Bill Cody. And, my dad is an entrepreneur, and his dad, and so on and so forth. So, growing up, I don't know if I really had that bug until I started into my early 20s and realized that every man in my family had been an entrepreneur all the way back to Holland. And here I was going to college and, working some jobs. And, I started one of my first businesses, I believe, when I was 18 or 17 or 18. And it was a strategic services company, and that was just wholesaling cell phones. And that got me through college, and did a lot in the telecom industry back then, and worked my way through to, being able to import different Motorola cell phones, and also hooked them up as a provider, as a reseller to, I believe it was AT&T or Cellular One back then. So back then I knew that I wanted to own my own business and stay focused on that, but there was still the college aspect of it that kind of got me into just working some regular retail jobs. And I think that for the most part, being with my dad my whole life, I've always built construction, and he always had 3 or 4 or 5 businesses on the side: mobile home parks, cabin courts, rental homes, things like that. And so that is what grounded me, was the things that I had learned from my father and him mentoring me. But it was important for him, for some reason, that I go to college, and that kind of took me off my course, I believe. And
what did you take in college, Aaron? What was it that you took in college?
My major was marketing, and so
okay, yeah,
it was marketing, and I think I struggled all through college with every other class except for marketing, which was my major. And once I started into those classes, I don't really even study. I just showed up for test days, and I was able to pass with flying colors. Everything else had been kind of a struggle to me.
Well, just one quick note for anyone going to school and you're not sure what you're going to take. What a great major to take. marketing, say business overall could be a good one, but I'd say like marketing and accounting. Would you say that, Aaron? I mean, if you're not sure what you're going to do, because marketing and accounting really apply to all business, right? And so if you can really go deep and understand those two, you're going to be able to take those lessons moving forward. So did that help you as you started getting going, that the marketing back are you glad that you took that? Were there any kind of key nuggets you were able to take, or was it everything else after?
I guess for myself, I think it was innate in me. And there was some concepts as it lend itself to like market research, which was helpful. But, I think it was the 4 Ps back then. And now I think it's the 5 Ps of marketing. But a lot of those things were just innate in me. And so I'm thankful that I was able to get my degree. I think I'm the first Voorhees maybe ever in my line that I know of that actually has a 4-year degree. Everybody else just got busy starting businesses. So
then what was that? So you made it through university. What was that first business that you said, you know what, I'm gonna go and venture into the unknown of the business world and put my stake in? What was that first business there?
I believe it would have.
There's so many of them, Aaron. You can go through the years. It's really, really curious here.
I'm probably just gonna have to stick with a line here. There were several of them, and things happen in one, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, or it pushes you to another. But I think the real one that really
that one that you'd say was, okay, that was like the main business, and there was a bunch of kind of smaller ones before that. But what was that one for you?
I would say it would be coupling living water car washes and Aslan. As soon as I got married, we needed some income, and we went full force right into investing in car washes. So obviously we invested in the car wash. My land development company developed the car wash, and I started a construction company that constructed the car wash. So that was the one that really got us on the map and got us moving in the direction that we felt like the Lord would have us go. Because I was also a new husband. We were youth pastors at the time, and I needed something that would give me flexibility so that I could spend time with the youth back then. And that was definitely car washes, and that was a blessing for us and our family.
So how old were you when this opportunity came up? Approximately, were you
27-ish?
So you're 27, and you actually bought the land, and then you built the car wash as well. So you basically took everything. That was a pretty significant step to say, buy the land, build it. Was there an introduction? Did somebody say something to you and say, hey, this is a good opportunity? What was it that led you to the car wash? Because I mean, business has been so lucrative, especially in the recent years where, a lot of the larger investors are starting to get in they've been in the playground now for a few years, but you were in well before that ended up happening. Who gave you that idea to say, or was it just something that, Lord gave to you and you jumped on it?
Well, I would have to give credit to my father. I grew up with him, and we have had a lot of different businesses together, and we were in the mobile home park business. And that was fine and all. It was just something I thought I could do better. Even my CPA said to me, "Do you really think you're going to do better than a mobile home park?" And I said, "I do." I was like, "Wow." My dad had told me about investing in a car wash, and he thinks it would be a great business. And I kept telling him, "Dad, like what self-respecting human being wants to own a car wash?
Yeah.
I want to be more of the blue collar. I don't want to be the CEO of a car wash, chain." So it was him and his nudging. And then when I found out that it could afford me, as much time as I want with clients, I could be there and I could talk with clients. And if not, then I could spend the rest of my day studying. And so that's kind of what sold me on it. And so we did our first 1031 exchange out of a mobile home park business into a car wash back in 2002 or so.
So what is What is it about the car wash business that makes it such a good investment? Like I'm curious there that when you got into it, what were the things that you found out about the car wash business that made it like such a great place to invest where, very strong upside, very low downside? What was it about the car wash business there that really makes it stand out against other businesses?
Well, the model that was around back then was just automatics and self-serves. There was no such thing as an express exterior. And the challenge with the model back then was scalability and memberships. There was no way to get members. There was no way to really scale it, or at least I could figure out. I did like it because it allowed me to have time to do my studies and time with my family and the lifestyle that I wanted to have. So we built the first one, then the second one, and then we acquired a third. And about 3 years later, I sold the first, then sold the next one in 2009 or 10, and then the last one was 2015, and then Living Water really hit the market hard with the Express Exterior. So the Express Exterior market offered memberships and offered scalability, which the first car wash, at least at the time, we could not figure out how to do that. So it was the scalability that really helped us to jump in, and that was in 2016. We were developing some land, and my partner in the land runs a bullion company, and at that time, bullion, precious metals were flatlining, and, construction was steady, but, we always have to, as entrepreneurs, have that side gig. And so we started developing the land. We bought the land, and it was like 4.5 acres, and sold to Discount Tire, sold some land to Advanced Auto Parts. And now I had to convince my partner that, car washes, this is where we need to go, because I've been constructing them and talking to clients and finding out what works and what doesn't work. And so we pivoted at that point and began to build the first one. And the first one just went crazy. I took my expertise.
Why did it go crazy there? What was it about that was different? You had mentioned memberships. Can you tell us how that works, and how that maybe could apply to other businesses as well? And like, what was it that made it be like, wow, that was like crazy?
It was, it was the memberships, and that's just simply getting someone to sign up for unlimited car washes for a low monthly fee. And if you were to go buy 2 car washes from us, it would be the equivalent of an unlimited package, which we offered. Our car wash was nationally acclaimed. We mixed the belts, and the buildings were the market disruptors during that era. And that would be a belt conveyor from our friends up in Canada, STI Conveyors. And it would be a building with a translucent roof. And we were the ones that first introduced the STI belt to America, and then introduced the Living Water building, which I designed, in which we also sell as carwashbuildings.com. We sell this building nationally. So what made this particular brand, we weren't trying to build just a car wash at the time. We were really focused on building a brand, and we did that. We did that successfully, and we were mixing certain equipment with the belt and with the building, and it became nationally acclaimed almost overnight. We started having people from all over the world, from Canada to Mexico to Dubai, of all places, flying in to see this car wash that we put together. And for the most part, it's a car wash. Most car washes wash cars. No big deal. But when you mixed it with these market disruptors, it became something very special. And so we had some case studies done. In 2018, we're still one of the case studies that Sonny's did. And it caught on so much so that they said, hey, you need to build a building kit, make this a building kit, and which we did. And now we sell that building kit on a national basis. So it kind of gave birth to a couple other types of businesses that we started.
So Aaron, so you found a real need in the market and then you built it. And so you were disruptive with it. What was it that made you say if an entrepreneur is listening to this show, right? You found a real niche. So it's easy for somebody to think, oh, you found it. There's nothing else out there to sell for. What are some of the factors or ways that an entrepreneur can look at different industries and be able to collect dots to say, where's the missing pieces, and maybe how do you go about finding that opportunity on your own, and how maybe somebody that's listening could take that kind of same process and apply it to, other industries?
I think that is a kind of a twofold answer. Number one, we were just simply trying to be faithful in building car washes, and we didn't really know that the industry was going to swing, the change was going to swing the way that it did, but we were perfectly positioned for it by simply remaining faithful and serving people and creating value in the industry by designing and design management. Aslan Corporation's main name is Aslan Design Management. And we managed clients' designs from beginning to end. We did financial modeling. And then we really started studying the business model itself. And we know exactly what's going to fail in the first year, the second year, the third year. And our value proposition really came in because we were not only operators, but we were contractors and marketers and developers all in one. So there's that aspect of it. But the other aspect of kind of finding out where the market's going is just being very aware of the market in general. For example, you can look back at the .com era and find out everything's going online. I remember asking people, what is the internet? I don't even understand what the internet is back in 1991. And they're like, it's a place that you go and you can get any information you want. And I was like what? And they're like, anything like a virtual library. And I was like, man, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I wasn't old enough to really, really understand what is happening. Different industries have different things going on. Obviously, with the birth of AI is going to be a huge industry. Well, what does AI need to exist? Well, it needs power. Where's power going to come from? Because windmills and hydroelectric and all of the green initiatives are not going to get us to where we need to go. So what is that going to be? So that's a good study there. Way back when Henry Ford invented the car, it was probably not the time to start a horse and buggy operation. Things were changing, and so we're at that cusp right now, and really understanding that things are going online. I think people are going to be buying multi-units, and instead of going to a title company, I believe the title company is going to be a blockchain company, and the blockchain is going to go ahead and record everything for you. So things are changing with blockchain. Things are changing with electric cars. Where are we going to get electricity from? Once again, electric cars and AI. So these are big problems that will need to be solved.
What do you think the power solution is going to be? What's your thesis in the future where all this power is going to be coming from for AI and electric?
Well, the big answer is I don't know, but I think I have a hunch. If you've watched uranium skyrocket in the last, 9 months, I would anticipate it would probably be nuclear. With the small modular reactors that are being produced, that, they can come in on a semi, they can light an entire city, one of them. So that's my thesis, and that's my investment strategy as I go forward with energy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you see the production from a lot of these green initiatives, and as much as everything, it looks good on, when things are, you're on the news and whatnot, that sounds really good. But the reality is like you mentioned AI and, the amount of power that the world needs to when you start measuring what the output is, you start to realize, wow, a lot of the stuff that's been put out there is not really, it's not practical from a long-term basis. So that's really, really good insight. And your track record's been really great, Aaron. So for anybody listening, it's like, this is a guy that you really want to listen to and, heed his counsel. I'm a big proponent on looking at fruit and anybody that I'm speaking with. And if there's fruit that they produce in their life, it's like, there's a track record there. That's the number one thing that I look for when I interview people, by the way, is what's the fruit in their life? So I love to hear their story from start to finish. And do they have a track record of winning, or are there a bunch of, excuses there? So that's really good insight. And that actually aligns really well, Aaron, with what I've been hearing out there in the marketplace as well. Tell us a little bit about what you've been able to accomplish with these car washes. How many of these have you guys built? And maybe just give us some high level numbers of what. So with somebody that's listening, they can see what, wow, like you've done a lot of these and you've been super successful. So how many of these have you guys produced through the years?
I believe the last count was 113, something like that. So it's well over 100 car washes that we built, participated in the design management, the development of the entitlements. Living Water has, I had my first 3, and then we sold a chain. I think it was 11. We had 7 up and operational, and several of them about to get permitting.
Yeah.
So we've run the full gamut on those.
And then you've actually done a full exit as well with this as well.
Yes, we built them up. And I wasn't looking to sell. I was looking for cash flow and cash flow only.
Yeah.
But back in November of 21, someone gave us a deal that we couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've taken an idea, you got it off the ground, and then you've made it successful, and then you've done a full exit. What would you say would maybe be like a couple of key lessons that you learned along the way to be able to not only take an idea from infancy to like practical and, delivering results out there in the marketplace, but then taking it that next step from, results based to packaging it up in a way that a company can actually see its value and then come in with a really, nice offer that actually, you would have had a really good multiple on that. Like, tell us a little, maybe a couple of the maybe 2 or 3 of the key lessons that you took along the way to help you do that.
It was just really service oriented, and your Yelp reviews, your online reviews were really, really important to us, which meant that we had to create more value for our clients than we actually took in compensation. That's what we focused on. Being a Living Water was birthed out of John 7:38, and that there would be rivers of living water flowing from your belly, and just out of the abundance, flows kindness and gentleness and, good business decisions. And we allow our faith to really inform our business decisions. And so, really being faithful to those things has really helped us along the way in treating every customer as you would want to be treated. And our employees, one thing that we decided to do, out of I believe Living Water had close to 100 employees. And out of all of the employees we had, the only 2 that had car wash experience was myself and a young man that I started mentoring when he was 12. We were the only 2. And everybody else was new to the industry purposely, because we didn't want to stifle their creativeness. And another thing that we did was we were hiring for managers. We were trying to hire men who had a heart for the church, meaning they had gone to CCU or they had some sort of affiliation with being a pastor. Maybe they were an assistant pastor. And we really desire to have them care for our employees like they would a flock. And that was kind of a direction that we decided to go, and it paid off in dividends. These guys performed very, very well. And oh, by the way, we were keeping up with the big boys in 6 days when they were open 7 days. So we made a corporate decision to close on that seventh day. And I'm thankful that my partner, his conscience was to the point where he absolutely could not be a part of the business with it being open on Sunday. And that is totally fine with me. I deferred on that, and it worked out really, really well. And we're really thankful. And the families that worked for us, even the kids of the families that worked for us, were very grateful that we would give them a day to rest as a family together and worship the Lord.
Wow, there's so much there. That's so good. And I mean, if you just look at Chick-fil-A, I mean, they're open 6 days a week, and they're the most profitable chain out there. Like, it's incredible. So, I love that. And so there's a couple things you had said that I want to really highlight. So one, you had said service oriented, and the name of Living Waters, that's right. Like that's right out of the Bible, right? So from there, you had 100 employees there that the whole company was based on Christian principles, right? So genuine love of people and building a culture. And then finding managers that had those values ingrained in them already, you were able to build a number of leaders that would have attracted the right people along the way, that would have built a really strong culture. And by hiring new people, you'd said something really smart there, which is the same thing from the real estate business side. 80% of our realtors were not in the business prior to coming on our team. Like, we trained them from scratch, and that was for a reason, because they didn't have bad habits. And the 20% that were in the business before, they had to have an open mindset to run the way that we run our business as well. So that's on the real estate sales side. So, but you wanted to bring on new people so that you didn't stifle their creativity. And so, but your training program must have been second to none. Can you tell us a little bit about that, on how you were able to take people that weren't in the business and train them to, the standards that you guys had? Did you have any sort of onboarding training? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was onboarding. And to your point, when we were hiring some of these fantastic people, they also had a black book of contacts, and that they would call and say, "Hey, come with me on this." And so that was super fantastic. So we really wanted people that had the untrainable things, like, character, integrity, and things like that. So if we were hiring that caliber of person, then they were looking for that caliber of person and bringing that caliber of person on. So then it was just basically the technician part of it. And yes, we onboarded people. At first, it was a little wonky because, we're right in mid-flight with this airplane and trying to put the landing gear on, and the propellers and the wings. And so there was a lot of that in the beginning, but we hired such fantastic people. One of them became our manager for the entire area, and he was a people person. He knew what made people tick, and he knew how to train and educate the teams. And every time there was a hire, he was right there alongside. We've taken more of the mentorship role to some extent in that, and just, it's a walk along, talk along, work alongside of onboarding. So it was really, really good. When we exited, we had a company meeting, and we brought everyone together. And on one hand, I felt a little culpable, a little sad, because these men really loved what they did. And one of them even said this was the perfect blend of ministry and work. And I love it. When are you guys going to go again? Cause I'm on. Yeah. I'm with you, And so, if you have loyalty from your people and you treat them right and you take care of them, it's some of the most amazing things that can happen, especially if they're seeking, if they're asking for meetings and asking to be mentored. And a lot of them did. So we're really thankful for what transpired with Living Water.
Yeah, that's such a great example of that. I think it was Jack Welch said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast."
That's right.
And it's such a strong strategy is to build a strong culture of people, and the people build the business, right? And they look after the customers, and that's why for both the real estate sales side and the investment firm side, love or genuine love of people, that's like the first value in both companies. And if you find the right people that have that, to me, Aaron, that's one of the key traits. And that's like a Christian principle is like, love God and love people, right? There's the big two, right? And so I find if people have that, that's not a trainable thing. You either have it or you don't. And so just really powerful there on that. So, okay, so that was really great. And I think anytime you're building an organization to grow and scale, you can be having the current, working with you, or you can be swimming against the current based on the quality of the culture and the quality of the people that you bring on. It takes a little bit to curate that and to find the right people at the beginning, but that work up front will pay off massive dividends in the long run.
We're finding that out with Aslan since we are right in the throes of doing the same thing with Aslan, and we have such an amazing team. And one of the things that has worked really well is to grow them. And so we see the power of Deuteronomy 6:7 and mentoring and discipling in that way in business. So much so that we are creating our EOS system for the younger people that come on with Aslan, so that we can include, hey, we want you to listen to this podcast. We want you to have this much training in this, and we're making it part of the 90IO that we're doing, trying to make everybody perform at 90% or better. And so we have 4 young guys right now who 2 of them had just started, and we're really excited on this. And we have buy-in from all of the, not only the senior level, but middle level managers. And this is our existence. This is our why. Our why is to stabilize young families and young people, help them and teach them to make money, and help them become the best that they can become, whether they end up staying with Aslan for the long term or whether they started their own business. We have helped, I don't know how many people start their own business, get off the ground, and still mentor them till today, people that I started with in 2007, and stabilizing their family and their existence and their children and so on and so forth. So we just want to be able to do this as many times as we can. I don't think we're going to be able to do this 1,000 times, but if we were able to do this with, 20 young men over the next 20 years, and they give you the buy-in, and then they do the same thing, but they also do 20 buy-in, you can see the exponential growth. So the growth that I'm looking for, I probably will never see in my lifetime. I want to see stability in families so that they can worship God and actually spend time with their families. How many men are out there working 70, 80, 90 hours a week? And that's just not healthy. That's not good. Lifestyle does matter. Your existence does matter. So that's kind of where I'm at and where I'm going. And that's my why.
I love that. That's powerful. And not only you're helping people, you're growing businesses and impacting clients, but then, you're serving, the Lord as well as a higher purpose. So there's a big why there, right? So can you talk a little bit about what are some of these key lessons that you teach these young entrepreneurs? You had mentioned EOS. For the listeners out there, maybe what are some of these key lessons that you teach these entrepreneurs? And maybe you can talk a little bit about the EOS program and, what that's all about.
Sure. We, when they first come on board, we want to understand. The hardest thing in business is to try and figure out how someone's gifted. Everybody is gifted a little bit differently. And then being able to rely on somebody else's strength while they rely on your strength And so we are trying to figure out a way to where we understand someone's giftings. And I think it took us 10 years to find out what our current COO, his gifting is. And he's such a systems guy, and we didn't know that. And now that we put him in his gifting, I cannot believe the exponential growth that the company is having, that the people in the company is having. And so I was just like, why can't we find this out sooner? So now we're embarking with these younger people. And I think, some of the lessons would be, there's 3 types of soil or 4 types of soil. Which type of soil are you? Are you going to have grit? Are you going to stay the course? Are you going to be faithful, available, and teachable? Or are you just going to go the way of the typical teen where you just advance at doing things in life that just don't matter? That was a Francis Chan quote, that we shouldn't fear failure, but we should fear excelling at things in life that just don't matter. And so making those priorities and helping a young man of all people to see those priorities and lots of prayer with these guys and just walking with them. Yeah. What are you interested in? We had one young man who's just like, I want to do plumbing and plumbing only. I'm like, great. You want to open up a plumbing business? Right now, I'm focused on understanding plumbing and plumbing only. Okay, well, I'm getting a little too far ahead of you here. So,
because it's building this big business. He's like, I just want to learn.
So sometimes it's you're too far ahead of there. It's sometimes you can fall far behind them while they're like championing the cause and going out there and inventing a division,
So good. What are they? Can you summarize the 4 soils again? If you were to just summarize, you said there's 4 soils that you teach?
Yeah, it just comes straight from scripture. Is there a soil that is rocky? Are you going to be able to receive the seed that the Lord has given you, or the gifting that the Lord has given you, and grow that? So is your soil sandy and rocky to where when the sun comes out it gets scorched? Is it thorny? Are you planting your seed in the thorns, right? So that the cares of the world will come and choke that out. And the cares of the world could be debt. Are you strung out with debt? Are you strung out with things that are going to hinder you in life? Relationships? All of these types of situations you have to keep oneself from. So are you going to be able to focus? We always teach the young guys, focus is FOCUS, follow one course until successful, then you can move on to the next one. And once you've been successful at a lot of different things, then maybe you can follow another course at the same time, but you're going to have to learn to default back. And so then another ground would be like, sowing it onto a path where it's so hard, the path is so hard, there's no way that it can take a root, right? And then the last one would be, are you fertile soil? Are you soil that can receive and give value? I'm very intrigued with the idea, and we're going to be expounding on it in a book that we're writing about the mentorship model. Is the gain that both a mentor and a mentee can receive from one another. The gain and the gap. So the gain for the mentor could be a lifelong, life-changing relationship with this person, which I have, and many of the mentors and mentees that I know, whether they were mentored by me or mentored by somebody else, they give you a hearty amen on that it's life-changing. It has to be life-changing for both. So there's going to be a gap that the mentor has that the mentee fills. Maybe doing some miscellaneous work. Hey, run down this, do that. And sometimes it just seems kind of meaningless. But when they're looking over your shoulder at everything you're doing, I'm surprised I don't have a guy here right now as we're doing this, guys in the background. When you're when you're doing an email, they need to see, is someone mad at you? How are you handling it? Is someone sad or anxious? How are you handling this? How is your emotional intelligence solving the issue that you're having right now on this email, right? And with them being able and having that opportunity to look over your shoulder and watch how you do it, it's accountability to you, but it's also accountability to them for their future. So then the gain would come in with them, would be, if you go to a meeting, you go to an investment meeting, or you go to a construction meeting, a pre-app meeting with a county, whatever it may be, they get to be a fly on the wall in those meetings. I've taken my younger 2 boys with me to close on land. And, there's the other parties there, the CEOs there, there's the title company there. And they're like, well, is this bring a kid to work day? Yeah, every day. It's called mentorship. This is what we do. This is how we educate. We educate towards what life really is instead of, which school could be kind of an island, which is surrounded by reality, but it's not really reality. So we try to do that as much as possible in these situations as we move forward with these young people.
Well, Aaron, I love that. I think for all the listeners out there, I mean, this gives everybody permission to really go that extra mile and bring your kid, in on those conversations. When you're going into meetings, it's like, obviously they're going to be old enough. Like what age would you say before bringing them into, say, a business meeting, Aaron, that you'd say, okay, that it's starting to make sense at this point? Like, you wouldn't be bringing in a little toddler where you're having to go chase, where you could focus on the business dealings, right? But is there a certain age where you're like, okay, you know what, I'd start to slowly introduce them into the business, conversations on a day-to-day?
My own sons, because we have mutual access to one another. I've taken my youngest sons at 6, 7 years old to closings and business deals, and when I'm running a construction or a pre-construction site, they're around it, right? My youngest one has been around. I think he was having a discussion with the excavator when he was like 4 or 5 years old, right? So I don't think it's ever too early. There's been many times where I'm doing business with I have an infant in my on the front, and he's going to business deals with me. It's just it's an integrated life of business and family and ministry.
Well, and this is something that, I've talked to the boys about, like, so training, for example, like doing weights. That's something that I've encouraged them to do. Is like, do weights when you're a teenager, because developing muscle when you're older just going to come more natural. And so, like, with business, for example, that's such a great thing, being around parents, even like them listening in on conversations on the phone. It's like, okay, like, listen in on this. That's like residual that stays on them through their whole life. And it gives them such a major advantage. We were just interviewing an accountant that he was brought up in his father runs an accounting firm, and he's been doing that his whole life. I actually gave that, like, that's an advantage for that accountant that I saw, that he would accounting would come more natural to him because he's had that in his family, and he's been around that for many years. And so I think it's such a good reminder for all of us entrepreneurs that, our kids that are along the way, anything we pass along to them is just going to make it 10x easier down the road when they got to learn that. For maybe it's the second or third time that they've learned it, they're going to be able to pick it up much easier than somebody that maybe wasn't exposed to those same opportunities and that same exposure. So I love that opening, giving them reps and just exposing them to, because it'll come more natural later on. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
I do. I think that there's a lot of nepotism that comes with that. And so that's what I believe, that it's important that the father spends time with his sons. I think it's very important that young men, for instance, Peter, he was 17 when he came to me, and his father was a fighter pilot and a pastor. And Peter, wasn't exposed to construction. He wasn't exposed to any of these things, but he was able to come at 17 and be that fly on the wall and get to experience the gain and the gap kind of situation with me. And I took him to meetings, and now he's 30 years old now, and he's running the company. He's running operations for the company. And I've had one guy say, hey, talking to him is just like talking to you. Well, that's the point, right? Yeah. That's the full point. The scriptures talk about that there's many, many teachers, but there's not many fathers. And a father will teach his son, and the son will look like his father. And so he does such a fantastic job at what he does. He's irreplaceable. He's mentoring one of my sons right now. And so, we want to have this situation. I see a situation in the future where his dad and I talked, and he knew that I was a safe place to help teach character and integrity. You might not know this, but like young men probably don't have the biggest character in the world or the best character in the world. And so being able to have patience in that while they're doing business in your work, right? And when they mess up, teach them how to repent. How do you do that? Well, when you mess up, because you will mess up, you will say something that's not right, or you will lose your temper, make sure they see you repent of that so that they can see what manner of man you are. I see in the future a situation to where, people will send Aslan boys. Now, this isn't something that we can take 1,000 kids, but we can take a few good young men. And if I have a son that happens to want to do something different than me, okay, what do you want to do? You want to go into finance? You want to go into real estate? You want to go into numbers over here with a CPA? Well, we have those contacts, and we're building those contacts, and that's what we want to continue to build. This is our why. This is what we do.
Well, and you get a number of those young men out there working in the country. You better believe that those industries are going to thrive, provide a lot of jobs, and then they're going to impact a lot of people as well. I think that's such a great mission. What would you say would be like the 2 or 3 things that you do as a mentor that you believe are we'll say the 20% of things, or maybe even the 10% of things that deliver maybe like 80% of the results? Like, what are the big levers when it comes down to the key skill sets or the key things that you would do as a mentor to teach somebody, that would be able to say make an impact? Like, what are those big levers that you've seen? Maybe 2 or 3 examples.
I honestly believe that it's, just setting the example with transparency, humility, because those are the things that really will kill you in life. It's things like pride. And if you get a little prideful about something, repent of that. Being submissive to the Lord, having them see you being submissive to elders in a church, going to church, making sure that your family is top notch. There's not a week that goes by that the guys that I talk to, I ask, how's the family going? How's your wife? Are you working too much? And, you better come clean with me, because if you tell me, no, everything's good, and I actually call her and talk to her, and she says, well, yeah, he's working a lot or whatever, we need to make some adjustments. We don't want to strip out of people the very life that God puts into people. Yeah. There is more things in life besides working. So, a work life balance is very important. And having the steady stream of scripture and knowledge. What books are you reading? What scriptures are impacting you today? What did your pastor preach about Sunday? These are all things that they're pretty important to a young man. How does a young man keep his way straight? Well, by living according to God's word. That's pretty simple. And if he's not living according to God's word, chances are his life is probably, crooked somewhere. I'm just not sure where.
All right. Decisions. on a day-to-day basis, what are some of the key maybe filters that you or values that you filter your decisions on a day-to-day basis? We make thousands of them as from an entrepreneur standpoint. What would you say would be maybe, a couple or 1 to 3 values that you help that helps you make better quality decisions?
Oh, I believe that faith informs. We would like to say that faith informs 100% of our decisions, but I know that that's probably just not true. But when it's a big decision and manners of life and manners of practice, it has to be driven by faith. Our business needs to be driven by faith. Our investments need to be driven by faith. And putting before your children, we're making this decision either by faith or because it builds our faith. And one of my sons just recently made a decision, and he said, "Dad, what would be a better decision for me to make?" And I didn't want to make the decision for him. And so being able to guide him, because he needs to learn how to make decisions, I just simply said to him, look at both decisions, but look at both options, and whatever one requires more faith, that's the right one to do. He didn't like that answer, and I remember I didn't like that answer the first time I heard that either, but we want them to be faithful. What is the Lord going to ask or tell us on that day? Well done, good and faithless servant, or faithful servant. So we want to be able to create value. So it would be faith and value. How much value can you create if you were to make this decision? And it doesn't have to be monetary. Is it a decision to help, someone, a single mom with boys? Can I take your boys? Because that seems like it's pretty full of faith, and it adds value to her life, and it will add value to our life too, because we get the blessing of ministering and just walking with these boys or girls or whoever. So that's just an example.
No, it's great, because this is, to me, it's like if you're healthy spiritually and family wise, that's such a strong foundation that all these other business skill sets, they're really not that they're not valuable if you can't prolong it long term. And if you have that stability there, it provides such a strong foundation to have such a rock star entrepreneur and business career long term. I love it. What would you say would be some really good investing advice that you would give a entrepreneur? Say they're they built the business, they're well capitalized, they have an emergency fund. Where would you tell them that would be a good place for them to, say, invest, or any investing advice to help them grow their wealth over a long period of time?
I would say stay away from non-performing non-assets, right? Yeah. Like cars and guns and, whatever. You always want to, my littlest one I'll say, what is the definition? What is the difference between an asset and a liability? An asset works for you and a liability works against you. Great. My 7-year-old now knows more about investments than a lot of college graduates, right? And so being able to take your seed money, so we teach from a very young age that when you make money, you put them in these four buckets. You divvy out your money. First one is the tithe, right? Which is give back to God. The next one is share with others. The next one is spend on yourself. And the next one is seed capital. And they need to learn how to divvy up that percentage. Obviously, tithe is a minimum of 10%. So I say whatever goes to God, I believe that a minimum should be seed money, seed capital. And so really learn how to divvy up your capital. And then when you have enough seed, don't eat your seed. So we teach the little ones, don't eat your seed. When you eat a peach, you don't eat the seed, right? No. Why don't you eat the seed? you'll break your teeth. Okay, well, that's really great. Because if you make, $10,000 or $100,000 or $1,000,000, don't eat your seed. Don't go out there and spend it on things that are going to be worth less in the future. Always try to place it into an asset being real estate, what you're doing with multi-units, fantastic. People are always going to need housing, always, always, always. And so I think that is a fantastic investment for them. And I also think it keeps them from the younger they are, from spending it. So it's accountability. Put it into something and move on with working to create more seed capital. We try to mimic exactly what we do. We go out there and we wage war, we make money, and then we want to take that money and we want to put it into those 4 buckets. And one of those buckets would be investment. So whether it be an asset, a real estate asset, or, precious metals or cryptocurrencies, whatever it may be, just put it in something that's not going to lose its value as the dollar continues to decline and the world de-dollarizes. We're in a really tough situation now since 1971, and we came off of the gold standard, and now we're due for a reset. So what are you going to do with that capital? Please don't keep it in the dollar. For the love of God, put it into some sort of asset.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's so much wisdom you just shared there, Aaron. And, it's interesting, college graduate, you nailed that in regards to assets and liabilities. And, even the buckets there as well. That's so good that you're teaching the younger generation, because it's interesting. They don't teach this stuff in school. Right. And it's people work 2,000 hours a year at least working on something, but then they don't have anything at the end of the year to show for it. So it's such great wisdom, and just want to encourage all the listeners to really dive into those and to understand that more. Aaron, what are you excited about today? What's exciting for you in your world right now?
We are excited to continue to expand the Aslan community of companies and to create a bigger platform so that we can do what we've been talking about this whole time. We want a bigger platform just so that we have more options for young people to learn. It used to be just construction management, but now it's, plumbing. We have a plumbing division. We have a roofing and siding division. We have a wall systems division, and continuing to build those out and adding a front division that would go before the construction, which is land development. We've done land development for a long time, and I have a young man right now that's interested in that and wondering, how do you know which piece of land is great? And how do you know which piece of land isn't great? And so all this stuff that you and I do as professionals, just having a young man with us. And so, the platform in order to make our why just a little bit bigger and more meaningful, if the Lord allows.
Well, I love how you're planting seeds and pouring into the younger generation. And 50 years from now, it'll be really interesting to see all the fruit that it's providing from that vision that you're setting, Aaron. So such a great leader. And I could be talking to you, I could talk for the next 3 hours about business, because I've only scratched the surface of all my questions that I have. But we are coming to an end for the show. You just have the rapid fire section part of it. You ready for it?
Sure.
All right. So first question, which book has had the biggest impact on your business or wealth creation? And I'm going to say outside the Bible, because, there's so much wisdom. The Bible, there's we got business and we got life and wealth and all the rest of it all wrapped up in that. But what would you say would be the biggest one that impacted you?
That's really hard to say. I think from a super, super practical standpoint, like the book Traction and, Rocket Fuel, from the ministry perspective, we do what we do, whatever the cost. So whatever the cost from the Benham brothers is such an amazing book. And it's a required read for any of the younger guys that come, because there's going to be a lot of things in life that are really hard to do, but we're going to do it because it's the right thing to do, whatever the cost. And then from a super practical standpoint, I did mention Traction. Visioneering, how to maintain personal vision, because a man without a vision is going to perish. So that'd be another book.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, two of them I haven't. The Visioneering there and whatever the cost, I want to make sure to pick those ones up. Excellent. All right. How would others describe you in 3 words?
I had to ask some people how to describe me, because the words that I was coming up with was not the words they were coming up with.
It's interesting to hear what they say, right? So,
Yeah, I didn't go to a super awesome place, but I think they would say visionary, resolute, and fair.
three great traits there for a leader. Very good. And then final advice that you'd give your younger self.
Don't think so highly of yourself when you're young. You're not all that.
Yeah. Well, very cool. We all have a place to go, right? And to learn from. So, Aaron, this is wonderful. I really appreciate you taking, the time from your, multiple businesses that you have. And, it's really inspiring for me to see what you've been doing as a leader and, all the impact that you're making. So I really appreciate your time and coming on the show.
Thank you, Mark, for having me, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, for 100%. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Mark Voorhees Experience. Hope you found today's conversation super helpful. I want to welcome you back and invite you guys back to our next show, where we speak to high-performing business entrepreneurs on how to grow their business and their wealth. We'll talk to you soon.